Last week, I was browsing eBay and I found two very old multi-tools, but brand new in the package. And I'm gonna unbox them today. We're gonna talk about these tools specifically, but I wanna also discuss an important question. Have multi-tools improved over the years, or are they slowly getting worse? That's a question I've gotten surprisingly often, and I think these are a great way to showcase, well, the reality. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to kick things off with the classic Schrade Tough Tool. Now, this package is from 1996, so not quite, well, actually, no, wait, more than 20 years old. Actually, this one's definitely more than 20 years old. I can't do math. Let's go ahead and take it out and look at it. Look at the yellowing packaging on this plastic. You can just basically tear it through. And no, I'm not going to collect it and resell it. I actually need this for my collection. And what a better sample can I get than one that was brand new in a package? So let's go ahead and pull this thing out, shall we? All right. Now, one thing that Schrade has stopped doing is they are no longer making their tools in the United States. So I'm probably gonna have to clean this up. There's some of this stuff has stuck over time. But we can get the general sense of what this looks like. Now, because the package was broken, it has a little spotting, which is perfectly okay. I'm not going to have an issue with it. And it is a little stiff out of the box. What has happened, and so what I will do is I will degrease this. But the lubricant that was moving it around has solidified. It's, lost its viscosity, if you will. Is that the correct term? I'm not sure if that's actually the correct term, but essentially it's dried out, right? We dried things out a little bit. So that can be fixed, but either way, we have this Schrade Tough Tool made in America. These are laminated, and this is something I was looking for. In fact, the whole process of looking on eBay was to find a very specific tool that was made by Schrade in collaboration with, what was the brand? I'm sorry, Craftsman. And it was a slip joint plier with the same handle style. And it had laminated pliers. And I have a feeling that we are not utilizing laminated pliers often enough because they are so strong. And I wanted to showcase it. Unfortunately, it was $400 and I'm not going to be able to swing that even if it's for content. But they had this, and I was definitely excited to have one in this condition that I could take a look at. Now, this is a different tool because it opens to the side. It reminds me of my first multi-tool, like proper multi-tool, and that was the Buck tool I got in 1998. And pretty interesting. And in fact, I like this design a little bit better because it's less flimsy when you're using the pliers and also quite a bit more comfortable. Now, when you're using the internal implements, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world because you're kind of like going like this, so it's not the most comfortable thing, but it's there. Now, as far as the lock's concerned, I actually think it's supposed to lock, weirdly enough. Oh no, this one doesn't lock. That's interesting. That's interesting. Some of these do and some of these don't. Let's see, does this one lock? Yeah, this one locks. There we go. So that locks, that's the serrated blade, and then if I want to disengage the lock, I simply lift up another tool that will move the lock out of the way. Once again, I need to degrease this thing. Oh, I need one that actually has a locking mechanism. I'm gonna cut myself today. I have this strong feeling. Oof, everything's very, very stiff. And then, oh no, oh wait, I forgot. This is the opposite one. They actually thought this through, so check this out. You press down and you disengage. Aha, yeah, that's right. Because the original Super tool, you had to pull out the tools, but I guess they made some improvements on the concept with the Schrade Tough Tool. Now, like I said, I need to clean this thing up. It's very sticky, but I'm very pleased to have it. Love the design overall. And it was, believe it or not, this is far better quality than the modern iterations that are made in China, because in large part, not just because they're made in America, but because the materials that they actually used were of higher quality. Even though 420HC is a steel that's been around for a very long time, and it's also part of the original pocket survival tool, it's still one of the best choices you could ever pick for a multi-tool steel. And yeah, very cool. I like it. I might actually end up carrying this tool in the holster at some point, just maybe a throwback. But love it, like the USA made holster sheath. And actually this one's cool because it's actually designed to go horizontal as well. They did think of a lot of things here. Looks like there's not a lot of space, but it does look like it's also a lot more flat. So overall, I really like that. That's quite nice. But really, I think the one that really surprised me, I didn't even realize this was a tool, is this Irwin collab that they had. And this is a true forged plier. Like not just, okay, we need to check. Make sure we get this in here. That goes in there. That goes in there. There we go. There we go. And now we have a USA made, by the way, Irwin. This is back when they were made in America. The Irwins used to be made here, and they have stopped doing so. So this is a surprisingly rare tool. It is a needle nose style plier. They currently do still make a sort of multi-tool, but it is not made here. So this is such a cool pickup, and I was pretty happy to have it. It was a real surprise to me. It has five implements. We have a two-dimensional Phillips, which looks, is that a milled Phillips? No, I don't think so. Oh, it could be. No, it's crushed. It's like almost as if they squeezed it into shape. That's interesting. We have a flathead here with a wire stripping notch. We have a partially serrated blade, small flathead, a saw. All of these, I believe, also lock. So let me see if they lock. They do, in fact, lock. And then I think it's still the same thing. If you press down, it disengages. You know, that's just a simple, elegant solution to a locking mechanism. It really is. Now, normally I would say that's unfortunate because this can wear out, but the reality is that the steel here, this is a forged plate that has been heat treated probably, and it shouldn't wear out in any major way over a long period of time. You'd have to put a lot of effort into rounding out these little edges, these little corners, to make it a problem. That is really comfortable, and it's actually so much closer to the actual size of a vice grip, like a 5-inch vice grip. That is phenomenal. Whew. I'm really excited to have this in the collection. I really am. This is great. It does have the, does it have the cutter? It does have the crush cutters. It does have the, oh man, look at the sharpness of those. I mean, this just shows the quality difference from what they used to be to now. Look at the teeth on those. Oh, sorry, you're not getting the teeth. There we go. Look at that. Very nice. Oh yeah, that is a keeper of keepers right there. I am really liking that one. Practical, and definitely has a couple of added. It's just like, oh, I need to cut something real quick and I can't find my knife. There's an extra knife. So really what you're going to use this for is just a vice grip. You're just going to have it as a vice grip, but then every once in a while you might just, instead of finding that one component, you can just quickly pull something out. You know what I would like to have seen if they did? Oh, you know what? They did kind of do it. It's almost the right shape for cutting holes in drywall. And I think that's what I would use it for. That's where it would really shine. If it's just a little bit pointier, they could have just tapered it down just a little bit more, and I probably will do that myself. Overall though, that's a home run tool. That is a very, very cool one. Okay, with that, let's talk multi-tool companies. Let's pull the Band-Aid off, shall we? Now, when we're talking about multi-tool companies and how they've done over time, let's go back to where we kind of started in the 80s and the 90s. The big four, which are SOG, Gerber, Leatherman, and Victorinox, they're still around to some extent. So let's see how they're doing. Number one, SOG. SOG used to make their tools in America, and I don't really care where they're made as long as they're made well with high quality control standards. Unfortunately, SOG has suffered pretty harshly from a lack of innovation and quality control over time. And the new implements that they're making coming out of China, they are incredibly inconsistent. Now, this is counteracted by the fact that they also tend to be some of the least expensive multi-tools you can find. So have they improved over time? Definitely not. If we move on to Gerber, now this is an interesting one. This is definitely an interesting one. On one hand, I have seen a genuine shift away from the higher quality, longer lasting tools. The MP600, which has been a service member's favorite tool for a really long time. This is one of those standard issue tools that a lot of people get. These have been loved. Unfortunately, the newest iteration of those tools seems to have dropped dramatically in quality control. And I can't put my finger on exactly what that is, but one thing I noticed immediately is that all new iterations of the MP600 are missing that USA stamp. That does not necessarily mean that it's worse, but based on everyone's feedback that I've talked to who has opened a recent box of MP600s, the number of issues coming out of the box is just way higher than I would have expected. So I can't give them a positive rating or improvement at least. They've either stayed the same or gotten worse. And there's also been a lot of other low quality tools being made from this company that are just really mediocre, to say the least. Then we get into the two tools that are probably the best ones in their lineup, the Dual Force and of course the center drive. I just noticed how nicely these sheaths patina over time. Anyway, the Dual Force, which is either made in Taiwan or made in China, is a reasonable price, a unique tool set, and actually has a surprisingly competent function. Like it just be with a slip joint plier that is made out of forged plates, it kind of sets it out to be kind of in a league of its own. I wouldn't call it an improvement though over the past generations, just because quality control can be hit or miss. When you're talking about the center drive, on the other hand, which is their only USA marked or USA made multi-tool in their lineup, well, that's a different story. I feel like this is so head and shoulders above everything else in their lineup. It's kind of bonkers. And can I just, determine that this company has one tool and therefore it's good? I don't think I can say that. I would say over time, in general, this is a company that has kind of fallen down a little bit. But not, I don't think it's because they necessarily changed, but rather the consumer changed. And so it's worth talking about that we are more likely to kind of use for a short time and get rid of or buy another thing. Like we're less content with sticking with that same tool over and over again, which is why you see so many companies, I think, offering multiple different variations. And even I've been caught into the cosmetic side of things as well. So I don't blame them for that part, but they do need to kind of make sure that you're maintaining quality control. Either the company is equal to or less than it used to be when it comes to whether it's better or not. And using 420HC, which they are still doing, that's a great steal for multi-tools in general. There are actually very few steels that are good for multi-tools outside of that. There really are very, very few. 14C, 28N, Nitro V, there's very, very few of them, and they're so much more expensive if you were to make it that it's not even worth it. All right, so after Gerber, what do we got left? We got the big two. We have Leatherman, of course, and we have Victorinox. We'll start with Leatherman. Now, leading up to the retirement of Tim Leatherman, they were coming out with some of the craziest tools and some of the most interesting iterations we've ever seen. My favorite example being the Leatherman Mutt. This is what happens when you take an engineer and say, anything you want, we'll make it happen. And that's kind of what happened here. It's a piece of mechanical genius and is one of my favorites in the collection, truly. The difference is there's so many different things going on here. I'm not going to just talk about it, but that was the pinnacle. For me, that was like when they had hit max level, if you will. Now, I think in some ways they had spread themselves too thin, but they were still achieving incredible quality control and they were also innovating where no one else was ever coming even close to them. And then you look at what's happened since Tim stepped down. And there are tools that have been in production or design work like the Free Series for about 7 years, about that same time frame. And it feels like the company started to miss the mark, at least what the consumer wanted. And that's not as big an issue because you can always change trajectory. You can always discontinue tools. You can reiterate on tools. You can design new things. That's fine. And trying new things is fine. Where Leatherman has fallen down the most over the last couple of years, and actually since, Tim stepped down, is quality control. It feels like to me that every third Leatherman I get out of the box is almost unusable. Whether it's plier issues, over tightening of the pivots, or seizing pliers, or broken cutters, it's not a small number. Now I buy between around 20 multi-tools a year. No, that's not an exaggeration. In fact, last year alone, I bought 35. That is not a joke. I'm serious. And quite literally, well, last year at least, more than a third of those were unusable, and most of them had to be returned immediately because of major issues. They are suffering from a huge crisis of quality control right now. Now, thankfully, they still have that incredible warranty to fall back on. But I can only imagine that these problems with quality control are costing them money. They're not costing the consumers money because they could just send them in and get it all fixed. But it is absolutely costing Leatherman, it's got to be millions of dollars to not have good quality control. So I cannot in good conscience, even with things like the Leatherman Arc and so on, say that Leatherman has improved over time, because they really haven't. And it's not because they need to use better materials. 420HC is a fantastic steel for a multi-tool. It's kind of a lack of understanding of what people want on top of the quality control that really seems to be the issue here. So yeah, that's my thoughts. It is my opinion, though. I just want to be clear that this is my opinion on the matter. Which brings us to Victorinox. Now, Victorinox, for such a small company, I mean, really, they're not a big company. They don't have many employees. They produce more knives, more Swiss Army knives every year, I believe, than any other knife company produces knives anywhere in the world. At one point, in fact, they made more knives than all knife companies combined. They make literally millions of them. And yet, after 10 years buying new and used Swiss Army knives, I have never gotten one out of the box that was like messed up, like no manufacturer's defects in a single tool. Now, I'm sure they exist. People have told me about it. People have gotten them themselves, but they're more like unicorns than the rule, right? They're really rare. No company has stayed as consistent, if not improved more on their quality control than Victorinox. And with their new automated systems, they have truly taken it to the next level. They still make some tools, like the Compact, by hand, which is now I realize why it's so expensive. But in general, the quality control is phenomenal, and all of these tools are made in Switzerland. When it comes to the multi-tools themselves, the plier-based multi-tools, they are by far the highest quality implements that you can find. They are not perfect, not by a long stretch. They still have that issue with the peening where they come loose over time and the cutters are not that great. But the warranty is unconditional lifetime basically. If there are issues that are not covered under their warranty, you can simply pay to have them fix it. These tools are wonderful. They are the only company of the 4 major groups that have genuinely improved over time, never fallen back. That is quite impressive for a company that has over 100 years of history. That is actually, in fact, that's unheard of. They might be the only ones out there capable of doing that. I'm not suggesting that the other companies have to follow suit exactly, but what this should be telling people is you can't continue to gain market share, can't continue to make money if a third of your tools are getting returned, right? That's costing you a lot, especially if you have a warranty like Leatherman. So what I'm hoping this video kind of leads to is this understanding that we have to be discerning as consumers, right? We need to pick tools that are going to give us good value, and hopefully we're going to hold those companies accountable. If the product you get out of the box is not good, make sure you send it back. SOG, Gerber, Leatherman, and Victorinox, all four of these companies have at very minimum a manufacturer's lifetime warranty, or in the case of Victorinox and Leatherman, even better warranties. So hold them accountable, right? That's one thing. And I hope this at least clarified to some extent the question of have multi-tools improved. In general, I would say the answer is probably not really, unless you're Victorinox, okay? That's pretty much all I'm gonna say for today. I hope this is kind of an interesting conversation piece. I would love to hear your opinions down in the comments. As always, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk again soon.